Laughter from the stars. They laughed at Earth. It began with a broadcast from the Galactic Union, an event meant to welcome humanity to the wider galactic community. Billions of aliens tuned in to see the latest primitive species being inducted. But instead of diplomacy, it became a comedy show. A towering Drazuri general, encased in obsidian armor and flanked by holograms of Earth's military hardware, sneered at the crowd. "Behold," he said, gesturing to video feeds of tanks rolling across deserts, jets screaming over oceans, and infantry armed with ballistic weapons. "The apes have sticks and fire. They think themselves warriors." Laughter erupted across the chamber. From the insectoid Churvax to the crystalline Valeri, species from every corner of the galaxy joined in. On alien networks, human war footage became a viral punchline. Comedic remixes of Earth soldiers firing rifles against impossible odds played on repeat, set to carnival music. On Earth, the reaction was mixed. Civilians watched in disbelief as news channels translated the jeers and jokes. Memes exploded online. Humans had always been good at mocking themselves. But beneath the humor, something darker stirred. Humiliation. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't feared, wasn't respected. We were entertainment. A backwater species pretending at warfi. At the United Nations Emergency Assembly, the mood was grim. Leaders from every continent convened virtually, their faces pale and voices quiet. President Okoye of Nigeria broke the silence first. "They are baiting us. They want a reaction, something they can use to justify what comes next. They've already sent a fleet," said Prime Minister Chowdhury of India, eyes narrowed. "Not for peace. For spectacle. They are coming to humiliate us in real time." Murmurs of agreement followed. The word surrender entered the conversation more than once. Then Admiral Elias Reyes spoke. A career officer from a long line of military strategists, Reyes was neither flashy nor political. His voice was calm, but every word landed like thunder. "We've seen this before," he said. "Empires mocking what they don't understand. They think we're beneath them. They see our steel and sweat and courage and laugh." He stood from his chair and leaned into the camera. "Let them come." Silence filled the chamber. "We'll show them what happens when you underestimate humanity. We'll turn their arrogance into wreckage. They want a show." His eyes burned. "Then we'll give them hell." The vote to resist was nearly unanimous. Hours later, Earth's defenses went to high alert. Military bases mobilized. Scientists reactivated decommissioned programs, and engineers began building the impossible with whatever they had left. Above them, in deep space, the Drazuri fleet punched through subspace, 30 warships gleaming with alien pride. They expected an easy victory. They expected surrender. They expected laughter. They had no idea what was coming. Operation Widowmaker. The Drazuri fleet appeared without ceremony, a sudden, terrifying shimmer in the night sky, as if the stars themselves were being peeled apart. 30 warships emerged, each larger than the biggest aircraft carrier humanity had ever built, their hulls obsidian black and bristling with weapons. They hung there like executioners over a gallows. The lead ship broadcast a single, contemptuous message on every frequency. A deep, resonant voice echoed in hundreds of languages. "Kneel, Earth, or burn." Millions across the planet watched the ultimatum on their screens. There was no second message, no offer of negotiation. In the command bunker under Colorado's Chan Mountain, Admiral Reyes studied the holographic display of the fleet. 30 ships, each one capable of erasing a city in a single strike. Every simulation his analysts had run said the same thing. If humans fought conventionally, the war would last days, maybe hours. Reyes didn't blink. "Bring me the Widowmaker files," he ordered. Around him, officers stiffened. Operation Widowmaker had been whispered about in classified corridors for years, an insane, last resort plan meant for an unwinnable war. No one had expected to actually use it. "Sir," a major asked cautiously, "are we sure we want to do this?" Reyes didn't look up from the display. "We don't have a choice." Phase 1, Ghost Eyes. Civilian hackers from around the world, rogue coders, cybercriminals, even game developers, were drafted into service. Their mission: infiltrate alien comms systems, jam targeting arrays, and corrupt navigational data. Phase 2, falling spears. Decommissioned satellites were reprogrammed as weapons, guided, controlled, turned into kinetic kill projectiles. Phase 3, Widowmaker. Humanity's ugliest weapons, nuclear warheads, experimental railgun slugs, and a project only whispered about as rods from God, would be deployed. Tungsten rods, each the size of a telephone pole, stored in orbit for decades. Harmless unless dropped. Then they became meteors. The first engagement came at dawn. The Drazari moved with arrogance, descending into low orbit over the Pacific to demonstrate superiority. A pair of smaller cruisers flew ahead, scanning the atmosphere. They never saw the first tungsten rod. It fell from the upper atmosphere at Mach 10, invisible until the final second, and slammed into the cruiser with the force of a small nuke. The ship didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, ripped apart by sheer kinetic energy. The second rod followed. Another ship died. For the first time, the Drazari fleet hesitated. On alien channels, laughter gave way to stunned silence. This wasn't how primitives were supposed to fight. In the Cheyenne bunker, Reyes gave his next order, his voice steady, almost cold. Phase 3 confirmed. Drop them all. Above Earth, invisible spears began to fall. The joke was over. The trap is sprung. The laughter was gone. The Drazari ships still circled the planet, but there was no smug broadcast now, no mocking tone from their high command. The destruction of 3 cruisers by primitive tungsten rods had silenced their amusement and ignited their fury. At 3:17 Universal Time Coordinated, the retaliation began. Bolts of plasma brighter than lightning rained from orbit, searing cities in seconds. Tokyo's skyline turned into molten glass. Manhattan's southern tip vanished in a blast of fire. In the first hour, 30 million people died. Humanity didn't break. In bunkers and mobile command centers, Reyes' voice cut through the chaos. "This isn't over," he told his staff, steel in every word. "We make them pay for every drop of blood they spill." And so Operation Widowmaker's second phase began. Submarines prowling deep under the Pacific launched their payloads, nuclear-tipped torpedoes designed for other wars. They breached the surface like angry leviathans, detonating under Drazari landing craft that had dared to dip into the atmosphere. 3 alien transports evaporated in mushroom clouds. In orbit, civilian-built Mosquito drones, jury-rigged from stolen tech and reprogrammed satellites, swarmed the fleet. They were not compared to the massive warships, but they carried something deadlier than explosives: code. The first infection hit the Drazari flagship's comm relay, a malware strand written by a 17-year-old hacker in Sao Paulo. Within minutes, targeting systems misfired, shields flickered, and one battleship accidentally fired on another. Reyes watched the chaos unfold on his screens. "Good," he muttered. "Let them eat themselves alive." The Drazari commander, a massive figure named Zethal, finally ordered the flagship to descend into low orbit, determined to obliterate Earth's resistance personally. That was the moment Reyes had been waiting for. A convoy of old cargo rockets launched from hidden silos, heading not for space, but for a very specific pocket of low orbit. The Drazari followed, thinking they were chasing Earth's last stand. But what they entered was no retreat. It was a kill zone. Dozens of dormant nuclear warheads, hidden in orbit for decades in violation of every treaty, came online. In one instant, every single one detonated. The sky turned white. Sensors were blinded. Communications collapsed. The flagship stumbled, shield sputtering under the onslaught. That's when the final tungsten rods fell, each one a god's hammer slamming through hull plating. The last one struck dead center, tearing the ship open like a gutted fish. For a moment, the sky above Earth burned with the light of the Drazari Empire's pride, and then it died in silence. In the Cheyenne bunker, no one cheered. They simply stared as the wreckage fell, knowing the tide had turned, but at a cost they could hardly yet imagine. The silence after the laughter. The Drazari fleet didn't retreat in formation. They fled. What remained of the once mighty armada scattered like frightened birds, their sleek black silhouettes vanishing into the stars. The ships that lingered too long were torn apart by Earth's improvised weapons, rogue drones, redirected satellites, even a few last tungsten strikes. By dawn, the sky over Earth was filled with nothing but smoke and wreckage. For the first time since the invasion began, there was silence. But it was not the silence of peace. Cities still burned. Tokyo was a charred skeleton. Manhattan's southern skyline was a jagged scar. In dozens of countries, rescue crews clawed through rubble, searching for survivors beneath collapsed buildings. The death toll had already passed 50 million, and it was still climbing. Admiral Reyes stood on the roof of the bunker as the sun rose, the horizon smeared with black smoke. He didn't look triumphant. He looked tired, hollow. A young officer approached him, saluting stiffly. "Sir, we did it. The fleet is gone." Reyes didn't return the salute right away. He watched the sky for a long moment, then said quietly, "No, we survived. That's not the same as winning." But the galaxy thought differently. The same alien news networks that had mocked Earth's toy armies now struggled to find words. Broadcasts showed the wreckage of Drazari warships scattered across oceans, clips of human soldiers raising flags over shattered hulls. The tone was no longer laughter. It was awe and fear. The term Death World began appearing on alien forums, whispered like a curse. To them, Earth was no longer a joke. It was a warning. 2 days after the last alien ship fled, Reyes made his move. A transmission went out, not just to the Drazari, but to every listening station in the galaxy. Reyes stood before the camera, his uniform stained with ash, his eyes hard. "You came laughing," he said. "You came thinking we were weak, that we would kneel, that we would break." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "You leave in silence. And if you come again," his voice sharpened, steel in every word, "you won't leave at all." The message was short. It didn't need to be longer. Reyes returned to the ruins of New York a week later. Standing where towers once stood, he watched children pick through rubble for pieces of alien metal, trophies of a war they didn't yet understand. The cost had been unbearable. The scars would last for generations. But above the smoke and ruin, there was a new kind of silence. The laughter was gone, and it would never return.